let's move to this next piece of some of the candidates who are jumping in this week, because I think you're exactly right. DeSantis's really only shot was if he was strong enough a Trump alternative to clear the field of everybody else and have everybody coalesce behind him. That dream is dead. You now have put this up on the screen. Tim Scott has made it official, filing to run for president in 2024. We're going to get a big speech from him. Expectation is heavy on sort of biographical details. Tim Scott is embracing the movement conservative, Reagan-esque type messaging. His advisors were telling reporters they don't feel like they need to make a contrast with Trump because it's so obvious. I'm not sure who it's obvious to, but anyway, that's their bet, is that they don't actually have to go after Trump. He can just talk about his own thing and his up from poverty by the bootstrap story, and have this sort of positive, optimistic message and avoid criticizing Trump or really any of the other candidates. That's the bet that he is making. We had a reporter on here last week just to play devil's advocate in favor of Tim Scott, who said that the Trump people tell her that they are actually more worried about Tim Scott than you might think, that he unites a lot of factions of conservatives and is this very, likable, effective politician. And so they feel like there may be more juice behind him than you might think. He also has a significant amount of money behind him, too. He's already launched a $6 million ad campaign in key presidential primary states that happen on Friday. And he is scheduled to announce actually today. So we'll get a sense of what that speech is and the details that are inside of it. And, let's be real, too. The Tim Scott play is also to lean into sort of conservative identity politics, similar to Nikki Haley, his fellow South Carolinian.
No question.
Lean into the biography, very inspiring biography. Lean into identity while also pretending like you don't really care about identity and it doesn't matter, and hope that's enough alone without kicking sideways at Trump.
And at the same time, you got Christie, put this up there on the screen. New Hampshire media reporting, multiple sources of direct knowledge telling me Christie will be announcing a run for president in the coming days. The campaign will focus on New Hampshire and will have a financial backing of Mets owner Steve Cohen, amongst other. Remember when I was talking about delusional billionaires there? That's where it's coming from.
Well, let me say with Christie, I don't think, Chris Christie may be delusional enough to believe that he can win the Republican primary and be president. But what he laid down is basically I can be the solution to this prisoner's dilemma. All you people are too afraid to attack Donald Trump, and frankly, for good reason, because it's never worked out well for anyone on the Republican side who came at Donald Trump. They always end up weakened, and he always ends up stronger. So Christie thinks enough of his rhetorical jousting abilities to try to do to Donald Trump what he did to Marco Rubio famously back in 2016. So I think his theory and what the billionaires backing him are hoping is that he can be like a guided missile aimed right at Trump to try to blow him up and make room and possibility for the other candidates. Now, do I think that that's going to work out? Probably not. But it actually is more of it makes more sense to me than some of the other folks that are in the race. At least he has an idea of what his purpose is and doesn't really have an expectation, at least the people that are backing him don't really have an expectation that he'll end up being the guy.
You know what it actually kind of hit home for me is I was like, if Christie runs and he's going to be on the debate stage, I don't see any way that Trump would come to the debate, because he would just be like, why would I put myself in a situation where I'm going to take incoming attacks? Exactly. I'm already the number one. And actually, if DeSantis shows up, he looks like he's one of this other band of merry people, 9 other candidates who are all just talking about Trump without Trump even at the attendance. Why would you even go? I mean, look, maybe he'll go just because he can't stand the media attention of him not going. But at the same time, it's he's threatened and he's thought about it before. Vivek Ramaswamy, too, just to show people about how many billionaires and others are out there shopping, put this up there. Rupert Murdoch actually just met with Vivek Ramaswamy in late April in New York, according to 2 people. One person described it as a getting-to-know-you session where Murdoch often meets with rising political figures. Look, what do you take away from that? It's that these guys, they're craven in the way that they only care about what's good for them. they are incredibly fickle. So first, Murdoch was all in on DeSantis, and he's like, well, maybe he can't win. So they're willing to just pull the plug from you. They don't have the level of organic support and all of that. And without that, when their ability to just shift and walk away, possibly from, DeSantis and go to somebody else, apparently Ken Griffin, is another billionaire who's thinking a lot like this. Well, if those are the people who you are entirely reliant on, you're in a bad situation.
Yeah, the billionaire class, I mean, they are just ideological in terms of what it means for their own bottom line, by and large.
Right.
And so, yeah, they're happy to play the field. They don't have any loyalty. They want to get on the team of whoever's going to be the winner, who can give them those, special goodies and whatever it is they want out of the White House. So, yeah, there's no loyalty there. And I think that DeSantis has shown enough weakness that the field is now very large. The piece about the debates, it's so, I think you're 100% correct. Trump is going to look at this and say, why would I open myself up to these attacks when I'm over 50% in the polls? I don't need to do that. DeSantis has been a very cloistered candidate, is starting to open himself up and take more interviews and, sort of get into the fray a bit more, but he also hasn't performed all that well when he's in the mix. So you could very easily see him saying, you know what, this isn't really worth it for me either. And on the Democratic side, obviously, Joe Biden and the DNC have already said, we're not having a primary, we're having a coronation, we're not doing any debates, forget about it. And meanwhile, you've got like 80% of the country that are like, we don't want either of these two guys who are both, past their prime to the extent they had a prime that we wanted to, to reckon with. So it's a very depressing and dispiriting state of the country, state of our democracy that we face coming into this election cycle, where basically everyone is just betting on being slightly better than the other guy that the entire public hates. They don't feel any sort of pressure to hold themselves out to any sort of process of democratic accountability. And it's a really sad, pathetic state of affairs that we face at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in terms of democracy, it's awful. And it just shows you how, the system really needs to change, but it's not going to. My main takeaway, though, is that it really is 2016 all over again. It may not be 16 candidates, but really, as evidenced by what happened in 2016, Kasich and Cruz alone were enough to split the anti-Trump vote to guarantee Trump the nomination. It only took two, semi-viable candidates. And let's be real, Kasich was tiny. Even Kasich was like nothing compared to Cruz, but he was just enough to make sure that he would be able to. Yeah, exactly.
Sununu is kind of a similar type candidate to Kasich.
Yes.
Who is the governor of New Hampshire. And they love him in that state.
Exactly.
He's one of the highest rated approval rating governors in the entire country as a Republican in the state of New Hampshire, which has been voting blue of late. And so very likely that he would win the New Hampshire primary, which is early on. And, even someone like that can take a chunk out of what DeSantis would need, because what's his bet? His bet is, let me win the early states.
Need to win Iowa, need to win New Hampshire.
Gotta win Iowa, gotta win New Hampshire. And so if you have one of those taken off the table by someone, and then you have the vote super divided in Iowa where there is a strong evangelical contingent that might, like a Mike Pence also, and might have a lot of loyalties there as well, it makes the math very difficult for him. And I do think his electability case to the donor set has taken a bit of a beating as well from his stumbles on Ukraine, where he was kind of all over the place, from his extreme positioning on abortion. They're also, remember, these are businessmen. They're looking at the fight with Disney and are like, brother, what'd you get yourself into? And I'm not sure we're really with you and on your side in this one. So they're looking at that too very negatively. You guys probably saw the news that Disney decided to pull out this multi-billion-dollar development in the state of Florida, thousands of employees that aren't going to locate there over their fight and dispute and now legal battle with Ron DeSantis. So there's a lot of messiness here as he's set to launch just this week.
There you go. All right, that's where the lay of the land is.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.